Good evening. My name is Cam the Queen,
And I am your boy, Coach J.
and we're back for another segment of Self Love is the Key
Well,
Wellness. And today we're going to be talking about something a little different, right? Now, y'all have heard about grief,
hmm
right?
hmm
And loss.
hmm
We're here to talk about disenfranchised grief, okay? Now, you may be asking, what the hell is disenfranchised grief? Okay? Now, normally you would think about grief as death,
hmm
right? Loss of a loved one
hmm
in some way, or someone that you may not have known very well, but they are no longer with us. But there are other types of grief that we experience and other kinds of loss that we experience that is not necessarily a death,
hmm
right? So I'm talking about divorce. I'm talking about breakups. I'm talking about loss of a role, partner moving across the country for a job, and you happen to be long distance. We used to
hmm
live together, right? These are all called disenfranchised losses because they are losses that people don't always acknowledge as a loss.
hmm
But we still have the same types of feelings that we have about these things because you feel like something is missing out of your life. Am I right, Coach J?
That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess the best way to put it is like you were saying, when we are going through those breakups, divorces, uh, you know, the relationship changes in some sort of way.
Change.
Yes, when the relationship changes in some sort of way, like you said, like whether it's moving across the country or whether it's just, the dynamics change in the relationship, like whether, for example, if you and I are in a relationship, maybe the roles change. Maybe it's I was the breadwinner, now you're the breadwinner. That's considered still a loss because it's the fact of now I'm going through a certain type of grief because of me having to understand that I lost something. I lost my job, and now you're going through the grief of you know us having to change the dynamics of like our relationship and our living situation.
An adjustment.
So that's basically what it is. It's like we're adjusting to new life.
Mhm. Right. And so I've been talking to clients a lot this week about disenfranchised grief. Coach Jay also mentioned speaking to a client recently about disenfranchised grief.
Yes.
And I believe you had said, well, and I quote, what your client actually said was, how do I not lose myself in a relationship with someone?
Mhm.
Because I must recognize that they may not always be there.
And what I told them was the best way is like from the beginning, I think that like it's very important for us to, um, and it's very healthy for us to actually have relationships outside of our relationship.
Okay.
Whether it's with family, whether it's with friends, whomever that you consider to be your relative, our chosen family, or whether it's our actual relatives.
And
I
why is that so important?
like so you don't lose yourself, So at
Ah,
the end of the
okay.
day, that's the goal, is not to lose ourselves.
Mhm.
You want to be able to still have a functioning life outside of the the relationship. I don't ever want to be in a relationship where I am solely reliant on my partner,
Mhm.
and I have all this family that I have, whether it's chosen or actually blood, but I
Mhm.
have all this family, and I'm only relying on my partner.
Mhm.
And if something was to happen to my partner, or my partner and I was to, unfortunately break
Divorce or
up or
breakup.
divorce, then
Mhm.
it's more so in a situation to where now I'm lost. I
Mhm.
don't know exactly how to go on. I don't know what are the next steps that I need to take to where to be able to live on my own because
Mhm.
I'm so dependent
Mhm.
on my partner. So it's
Dependent, like codependent.
yes, yes,
Mm,
yes.
like codependent.
hmm
Okay, so we got some buzzwords here. So we got like loss, adjustment, um, codependency.
hmm
Disenfranchised grief.
hmm
These are all very, very intertwined and interesting topics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit,
Okay.
talk about the grief, right? So, like I was saying before, sometimes people don't really recognize it as a loss because the person's still alive, but they're no longer with you. And a lot of times we don't do this on purpose. It's just we can't help it. When you attach yourself to someone, you a lot of times develop expectations
Mm-hmm.
of that person, out of things that you want to happen during the course of the relationship.
Out of the relationship itself.
Right. And that could be a letdown if things end. So I think that it's not in your best interest to put too many expectations on the person, because people are not going to change when you want them to. They're only going to change when they're able to and when they want to.
I think that like we all have flaws as individuals. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what happens, there's always going to be someone that's going to come along and it's not going to like something that we do,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the case may be. It may not be today, it may be 2 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, and maybe 5 years from now. You never know when that time is going to come, but we all have some sort of flaw that someone else may not like. But you can't go into a relationship with that thought process of, oh, I'm going to change this person. I'm going to make this person be more for me and not for the streets. Like it's like at the end of the day, it's like whoever they're wanting to be is who they are. And we have to be open enough if we're choosing to be with them, if we're choosing to marry them, if we're choosing to be engaged to this person or whatever type of way, then we have to be open to the possibilities of, you know, I'm not gonna like every single thing that he or she does. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to be open to, okay, well, let me come to that person, have a conversation. Like, hey, when you load the dishwasher, whether it's something so small as that, but whether you load the dishwasher this way, it really does bother me.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something so small as that, or it could be something so big as, texting the opposite sex, or
Mm-hmm.
calling the opposite sex, or talking, having friends of the opposite sex. And it's just more so having those conversations and being open to the possibilities of, you know, we're going to all have friends. We all have to do the work in being secure within ourselves to make sure that we are capable of having a relationship outside of, you know, friends, a romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that it is very important for us to, um, um, like, have those conversations with our partners, whether it's uncomfortable or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I would say, like going forward with and if you're in a relationship or if you're looking to get in a relationship, make sure that you're comfortable within yourself. Make sure that you are secure within yourself to make sure that you are able to have that conversation and know that there's a possibility that, you know, just because they have a friend of the opposite sex or the same sex doesn't mean that that person is being disrespectful.
Okay. Okay. That's an interesting. I'm like, okay, we went there. So, well, I'm coming back to grief, right, and loss. If you're losing someone, right, let's say you already are at that point, right? The divorce is happening, the breakup is happening. I think that we're in a time where, especially like with social media being what it is, that people think that they're supposed to just act like nothing's happening, pretend like they're happy, they're unbothered, they're thriving, they're living their best life,
That's so weird.
even when they actually are not. And that is called toxic positivity. And that is toxic.
Mhm.
It's not positivity, right? It's dysfunctional. So it is important to allow yourself to grieve, experience that loss, feel the feels. You might have to take some time off of social media. It doesn't mean you're a weak person. It doesn't mean that you are lacking in some capacity. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that you're going through something. You are experiencing a loss, and it is okay.
You need to do what's best for you to make sure that you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like you said, that means taking a step back from social media,
Mm-hmm.
or if that means just taking a step back in general to
Mm-hmm.
regather you and make sure you're good, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. At the end of the day, you're gonna get through that loss. You're gonna be able to come out on the other side and be a lot stronger than what you were before that process started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's okay to take time for yourself.
It is. Yeah. So I kind of want to go back to what you were mentioning earlier,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Jay. So
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned something about insecure, sound like
Mm-hmm.
insecurities or like jealousies or a person, boundaries around what someone considers to be perhaps stepping outside the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's another topic, but did you want to go back into that a little bit further?
I mean, I think so. I think with that, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just more so like my main thing is just always making sure you're doing the work prior to getting into a relationship
Uh-huh.
for yourself, doing the
Mm-hmm.
relationship for yourself to make sure you're secure, make sure you're good, make sure that you're open as
Mm-hmm.
possible
Mm-hmm.
to where that you are able to receive something that someone else is bringing to you. You know, like whether it's not saying that they're going to come in the door like, hey, they said they got like 100 friends that are the opposite sex and we just all friends. It's like, okay, that's kind of like a red flag,
Or they could be the same sex.
or the same sex,
You know.
that's to me, that's a red flag,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I that's just personally like 100 friends, same or opposite sex, whatever. It's like, okay, pipe down, pipe down. But not saying that's not true. Like that's people do have friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just more so like we just have to make sure we're prepared for that possibility of someone coming into a situation or a new situation. And I think that people should be transparent and lay everything out on the table and make sure that people are able to receive it before going to say, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? Or do you want to be my boyfriend? Or do you want to, be in a relationship with me? I think that that's something that should happen before a relationship starts.
So it sounds like you're talking about readiness to be in a committed
Mm-hmm.
um, relationship with someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, how does one know when they're ready? And then, what does that conversation look like when you are discussing the terms of your relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That should be talked about.
I don't think people discuss terms.
I think, okay. I think that people do discuss them, and then they don't lead up to actually getting together. A lot of times, those are those situationships
Mm,
that people are in.
the entanglements.
The entanglements where you're with somebody, you like them a lot. You might start only seeing them, but they're not on the same page as you. Maybe you want to be on that page.
Mm-hmm.
You start giving those hints to the other person that you want to do the same. You want them to do the same thing you're doing, and at that point, without acknowledging it all the time, negotiations are actually happening, and that should be the time where you should start talking about what your expectations are. Where are we going with this? People do it, they just don't really think about it. They're not cognizant of it.
Mm.
And they should be.
I think, of course, like going into a relationship, negotiate, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want. This is always tell people what you want, what you expect, where you want the relationship to go. What are your intentions? Bring that to the forefront to where that the other person have the opportunity to say, I don't want to do that, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that can work. Or however they may say it to you. Um, I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do think that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think you're talking about that as far as like if you're able to have those kind of discussions on the outset, maybe you won't get to divorce or get to breakup. However, I had another discussion with a client this week about the fact that sometimes people wear masks for a long time and they can wear those masks for
For
years.
years.
And in those kind of situations, it is not your fault. if you're trusting the mask that a person showed you, right? So we're not here to victim blame. You know, we're not here to say you should do this, you should do that. We're offering suggestions because guess what? You live and you learn. And you keep having experiences and you build upon those experiences and you do better the next time. And sometimes that means kissing a few frogs that you thought were princes or princesses and they weren't. You know, but that's life. You know, life is about taking risks.
It's like sometimes, I think that it's just, I think relationships are very hard.
It's
Because
work.
it's true work.
It's work.
It's like, I don't think a lot of people date just to date. I think people are dating because they want to be married, they want to have a family, they want to do these things. Whether they want to have a family with kids or not, it's still they want to have a family, whether it's just them two or whether it's them kids and dogs or whatever.
Yeah, you have a family.
You have a family.
How do you want to have a family?
However you want to have a family.
Our family is me and my cat. A little cinnamon over here. Yeah, here we are talking. Exactly. But yeah.
But yeah, like, so you can have whatever family you want to have. It's very important to, I think, really have those conversations though, and like I said, address what you're wanting. They're just really hard work. Like you said, sometimes people go into relationships with this mask on and they are agreeing with whatever it is that you're wanting because
they just want to be
because
with
they
you.
want to be with you,
Yeah.
but not really understanding like what it's actually going to take to be with this person. I think that unfortunately that's how a lot of relationships end in breakup and divorce and things of that sort, because no one is having the conversation. It's a one-sided relationship, really, is what it is. It's like that one person that has done the work, they're putting all their energy into this relationship, and then the other person that just wants to be with them, they're just rolling with the punches, like, oh, okay, we're gonna do that now. Okay, great. But not really taking the time out to really understand and really sit back and say, hey, like, that's not gonna work for me, or this is gonna work for me. Or really just both doing the work and really communicating and really saying exactly what it is that they're wanting, what's gonna make them happy, what's their long term goal with each other, whether it's starting that business together, whether it's buying that house, whether it's getting married, whether it's having a child, getting a dog, having a cat, like whatever your long term goal is. I think people are just not having those conversations honestly. I think
you gotta be honest because it's going to come out sooner or later.
Yes.
None of us can hold up the mask forever.
It's not forever. It's not forever. That's something like it's not forever. It's going to, the mask is going to fall off. It's going to fall off. And it may fall off slowly, it may fall off fast, but it's gonna come off. Eventually, the other person will be able to see. Oh, right.
I came with you. They're gonna say what?
Oh,
like
who is this?
This is my bed.
Who is this?
Who is this next to me? I'm like, wait. Was I drinking this whole time? Have I been drinking for 5 years? What happened?
Yeah. And that's all because we're believing something that it really wasn't,
Be careful also not to project onto the other person. So sometimes when we fall in love, we put all of our hopes and dreams, all of our desires onto this person. They often call it romanticizing a person. So you fall in love with someone, you're like, man, this person, they checking all the boxes off. They about to be my knight in shining armor. They're gonna be my husband. They about to they're gonna take out the trash every night. They're going to pay all of my bills. They're going to make sure they're going to give me Cardi B size gifts every holiday. They're gonna roll out the red carpet for me.
Period.
Every time we go out. They're gonna do all that, and that's in your mind. That is, your fantasy. They never said that. And so when they don't do it, you're upset. You don't understand.
But do you think that...
Because you're romanticizing.
So do you think that it can be a standard of theirs that maybe wasn't communicated.
Yeah, right. Did y'all negotiate on that?
Exactly.
Did y'all actually discuss that?
Exactly. And I think that sometimes as men and women, I think sometimes like, we do get in our own world because we want
Delulu.
what we
They
want.
call it Delulu. Delulu. I know the word.
But sometimes we get in our own world and our own minds, and we'll say like, "Oh, I want this. I deserve this. I'm not taking less than this."
I agree. Yeah, I have those feelings, but you have to communicate that with your partner.
Exactly.
You got to communicate that with them, and unfortunately, they won't always be able to.
It's negotiation.
Yeah, they won't always be able to do everything that you want, but they may be able to do some of those things, and you have to be able to talk about it, honestly, and say, okay, well, here's what I can't accept.
And if you can't accept anything, then it's your choice to say, hey, I'm not taking anything less than what I want. I'm going to move on. I'm going to pass. You're the only one to have to take that feeling of like, dang, he could have been the perfect guy, or she could have been the perfect girl, and move on and understand that you will never get that chance again because you chose out. You opted out. I do believe that it's all about communication. Like, relationships are very hard work, but I do believe that with communication, honesty, and with just a little bit of romance, life can go so far.
Romance. I missed the romance. What happened to the romance? You know what I'm saying? These days, people think they can just pop in like a Rod Wave tape or something like that.
No, Rod Wave!
And that counts as romance. What is happening?
But I think that as time has continued to go on, I think that the requirements of people have changed. Like, like a lot of people's standards have changed. I think that people that are raised in certain time frames, for example, like when we were raised, I think that we were raised with grandparents that maybe taught us a certain type of way. Like, this is what you should expect. This is what you need.
That's true. I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt, and they were old school, and so they talked about like going out to eat. Someone who opens your door, someone who brings a flower to you, or a nice card. But that's, from what I hear, is that old school?
I mean,
is that old school?
I wouldn't consider it old school only because it's like, that's the era that I grew up in. Like, those are things that my grandma told me. Like,
it's the same.
These are things that you should do for your partner. Yeah. So it's like
you're courting.
Yes. So people may never know what courting is. But
we gotta bring that back. Don't let it die with us. Please don't let it die.
But I
think it's 2024, but people still do court.
I think that people that are just upon our younger generation, people that, and I'm not trying to put, point no fingers, but people that are a part of our younger generation, I think that
they don't like that.
I don't know if they do or
I'm learning. I don't know. I'm old now.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, okay. But I feel that like a lot of like the standards, like just looking at, okay, to be real, looking at a music video nowadays, it's like there is no more R&B. R&B was that thing where I think that's also what helped a lot at the time too. Growing up, you see people being romanticized and
couldn't we be
exactly. But now, the only thing you're talking about is having sex, cars, money, drugs, and things of that sort. So you have to be, or booties, and I think things of that sort. And I think that as long as you're on that page, then this is okay. As long as it's
like a bottle and a blunt or something.
That's all it is to me. I think that times have just changed. So I think it also just depends.
And they use chicken and I heard someone say chicken and something. I'm not gonna say the other word, but it rhymes with chicken. But yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that recently. Like that's the thing now. Help me out, y'all. I'm trying.
I mean,
yeah,
I've heard it too.
You've heard it too.
I've heard it too. Okay. But I mean, I think it's just different times. I think that, unfortunately, I think that a lot of times we have to also be open to dating outside of our race. I feel like as long as we're dating outside of our
Nothing wrong with
race,
that.
it's nothing wrong with that.
So basically, dating outside your comfort zone. Sometimes your type might not be good for you. That's what I'm hearing. Coach J.
Yes. It's okay to if you're used to the bad boys, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
your
yeah.
type.
Yeah.
But if you're used to the bad boys, maybe try dating a nerd.
Or you have to accept that if you're dating the bad boy is not
comes with it.
Yeah, the bad boy is not going to all of a sudden turn into like
the good boy,
Prince Charming or whatever. He's gonna give you bad boy 24/7.
And you can't be mad at what you're receiving because you signed up for it in a sense. You did.
Right. You didn't negotiate any other terms, but
and even if you did negotiate, you still chose to stay there after they said that they weren't going to do X, Y, and Z, or they showed you what they weren't going to do. So you still chose to stay and say, hey, this is going to be the relationship that I want to be in and be a part of. I want to be in love with this person because they're going to show me this.
Right, but that's again. So that goes back to I think what I was talking about earlier about romanticizing a person and projecting and putting your fantasy onto them, even though y'all didn't have that conversation, like the Delulu.
Yeah.
That I was discussing. That's what that sounds like. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate. Again, we're not victim blaming.
No.
It happens all the time, but the more you know, the better you can be, from here on out in the future.
Just be open, don't put all your eggs in one basket,
What does that mean? What's that mean, Coach J?
I feel like people don't date, I feel like dating, talking to someone in a relationship or being exclusive are all different things. Personally, I feel like, when I'm talking to someone, then I'm just getting to know that person. Now, we're not dating, we're not doing anything. We're just getting to know. I don't know you. I want to know what's your name. I want to know what do you like to do. I want to know these things. Dating is us going on a date, us, putting the energy in both ways to see if this can even be possibly something. And being exclusive is, that process of, I'm only for you, you're only for me. That's it. There is no Tom, Dick, and Harry, or Susan and Pam, there is none of those people,
I think we need a whole other segment for that, but I like that topic. Like what, intentional dating, different types of dating, boundary setting during dating.
Next week.
Look out for that. All right, y'all. Well, we're pretty much at our time. Thank you so much for taking this time out to give us a listen. Please like and subscribe.
And go follow us, you guys. Like, follow us. She is
Kamthequeen.
And I am Get Well Wit Mel, WIT Mel, MELL. Go follow us, you guys.
Yes, and our group page, Self Love is the Key Wellness.
Yes. So go follow us. Go like our stories. Please comment. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. Please give us feedback on this video.
And we're trying to work on the sound, y'all. We heard you guys. We're trying to work on the sound. We're getting there. We're stepping out on faith and trying new things. So thank you for being patient with us. We really appreciate it.
However they do that. Yeah, that. Yeah. Bye.
Like losing a job or a child going off to school, or maybe even a